Welcome to PD on the Go, the podcast that delivers bite-sized learning on communication, collaboration, and facilitation for busy teacher leaders. Tune in while you're in the car, on your lunch break, or making copies and get ready to level up your leadership skills. My name is Hallie Case, and I'm joined today by my colleagues in the Office of Professional Learning with Fairfax County Public Schools. We'll take a moment to introduce ourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Beth Anderson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Hazelbeck.
Hello, Erica Williams.
Okay, so for the past few weeks, we have been talking about listening. We talked about why it's a top leadership skill, and we gave some ideas around what people could do to be a better listener. Today's topic is listening in action, and really thinking about what does that look like to be a listener in a team setting when everyone's sort of vying for their turn, or if you're more naturally a listener. So what does that look like? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So Rebecca, when you think about active listening, what do you think it looks like in a team setting?
When I think about the team setting, I think about maybe like shutting your computer halfway, really leaning in, looking at the person. So with your nonverbals, you're showing you're listening. You might paraphrase the other person or summarize them to really make sure you're understanding what they're saying. And that also really helps to make them feel heard as well. So that really helps lead to that trust on teams and helps people feel vulnerable and willing to give their ideas. What do you think, Erica?
I also think it might be posing questions to seek to understand, to ensure that you understand what the other individuals at the table have communicated. So that restating, I think, is important, or summarizing an additional point could be helpful. And also, you talked about nonverbals, Rebecca, and I think it's like ensuring that your face is neutral. So if you know, that judgment piece, we might think something in our head about what someone has said, and we want to ensure that that is held off in our brains. So keep it in our brains, try not to have it in our nonverbals, because that really matters as far as people wanting to continue to communicate with each other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The poker face?
The poker face. It's hard. I feel like there have been times where we've left a meeting, and it's good if you have people that you trust. Because like Erica has said to me before, I don't know if you know what your face was doing during that meeting, because it's a hard thing to be aware of. And I think that it should, you're listening, but are you listening with curiosity? Are you listening to understand? And remaining more neutral communicates a different message about what type of listening you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. What else, Mary Beth?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we often see in teams norms or working agreements something about respecting each other's ideas or listening actively, and it's something that they write and they don't always revisit. And those things really do support teams in being collaborative. So like Rebecca said, how do we paraphrase or show by closing our computer or not multitasking so others know that we are present and listening and that what they're saying is important.
Yeah. So what would be some ways to make working agreements come to life if you had one that said, listen actively, or honor diverse perspectives? How can you help a team follow working agreements like that if you're a team leader? What do you think, Erica?
I was going to say, I think it is a matter of talking as a team, talking about what that looks like and sounds like to each person. Because we all have different perspectives. And when you say listen actively, that might look different to me, to you, and you. So really getting on the same page about what it looks like to each person. And also, what happens if that working agreement isn't met? What do we do then? Do we remind each other? And what does that reminder look like? So that everyone is on the same page, no one is upset, there's no confusion, and it's a norm that the team has committed to. Yeah. What do you think, Rebecca?
I think catching people doing it as well. Like catching others in the room. Hey, you really listened to my idea there, and naming that sort of supports the working agreement idea as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so then other than working agreements, what are some ideas that we could put out there to help teams be better listeners of each other?
I think you have to know your people, right? Some people don't like to really talk a lot. So maybe the way we could listen to them is getting their ideas on paper somehow, like maybe through a structure that we embed. And we show we're listening by sort of paraphrasing what we see on the chart. Would be one idea.
Yeah, so like using sticky notes and being able to lift that up, or other structures like a round robin, right? Where there's no crosstalk. So everyone gets a chance to share without interruption. Or even like a quick turn and talk, and then you share what your partner says so that everyone's ideas are out there.
I'm also thinking about even taking that pause. So we know that we may have a whole group share out in a moment. Perhaps we just have a quiet 3 minutes or 3 seconds for everyone to think about what it is that they want to offer. And that might boost the voice and give people who might be internal processors a little more time to think about what they want to share before the share out happens, so that everyone's voice is balanced in the room.
I think that's so important, Erica, just giving people that time to internally process individually by themselves before sharing out. You're going to be able to hear more voices that way.
So it sounds like we sort of have some ideas for really mostly proactive. Like if you're a team leader, these are things you could proactively do to promote listening. You can have working agreements and have spent time understanding them together. And you can prepare agendas that build in structures that naturally allow for listening. And then I think we talked a little bit about the reactive too, of in the moment, if we notice that maybe someone's typing or they're grading papers, we've already decided as a team how we're going to move forward, because it's hard to hold other people accountable, right? Like that's not our job as teachers, and it's our job as a team to come together to collaborate well. So, all right. And what other ideas?
I feel like thinking about the holding accountable, you know, what's a polite way to do that? Because no one wants to call anyone out. And when we can paraphrase what's been said, that allows someone to bring them back into the conversation, because we know that sometimes teachers are busy. A parent might have emailed them and they're quickly responding or something in a team meeting. So we could paraphrase and pose some questions. Does anyone need any clarification on that? Or something to kind of bring that back to the forefront and keep the meeting moving so that we don't waste time.
Yeah. I also think granting each other grace. Sometimes we're going to get excited or be passionate about something, and we may just blurt out an idea, and it's all because, someone's really interested. So every now and then, just grant each other grace and understand that we may not always be the best listeners, and we can continue to grow, and that feedback from each other really makes a difference.
Yeah. All right. I have some things to think about. Like, what kind of listener am I on our team? So we hope that this had some takeaways for you as well. And as always, we'll post some resources that go along with our conversation. Today we talked about working agreements, so we have some things that we could share around that. And we also have some asynchronous learning modules that team leaders can engage in or teams can do together that can support the learning around active listening in a team. So we'll post those to our Instagram account, which is at FCPS_PD. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of PD on the Go. We'll see you next time.